Guys, thanks for the 2,000 likes in the previous video, and I hope this video reaches 2,000 likes as well. Sorry for the delay in uploading, but my eyes were hurting, so I took 2 days off. The next day, Ryu-min greeted Russell at the airport. Russell approached with a broad smile and said, "Mr. Ryu!" Ryu said, "Welcome to Korea, Russell." After a brief handshake, they headed to the parking lot, and Ryu said, "Let's go. I'll drive." Russell, talkative and eager, spotted the car and said, "Wait, is that a Lamborghini Aventador?" Ryu asked, "Recognize it?" Russell replied, "Do you think my mountain life means I'm out of touch? This car right here is my dream car." Amidst playful banter, the two drove away. Then Ryu asked him, "Any particular place you'd like to visit?" He replied, "I'd prefer somewhere tranquil for a chat." At that moment, Ryu glanced at his watch, pondering for a moment, and he inquired, "Lunchtime already? Shall we grab a bite?" Russell replied, "Yes, please. I've always wanted to try authentic Korean cuisine." Ryu said, "Then let me take you to my favorite spot." And he led Russell to a serene Korean restaurant nestled in Heavenly Demon's Hotel. Thanks to a precautionary reservation, they were seated without delay. Then Russell said, "This place is so peaceful. Is it a Korean eatery?" Ryu smiled and said, "You could say that." The array of dishes served was impressive, eliciting a look of awe from Russell at each course. And he said, "This variety is astonishing. I've never experienced such a meal in my life." Ryu said, "Are you enjoying it? That's great. Dig in. It's on me." Russell said quickly, "No, Mr. Ryu, I can't keep owing you. Let me cover this." Ryu inquired, "Sure you can afford it? It's a bit pricey here." Russell spoke with the confidence of a billionaire. "How much are we talking?" Ryu said, "Around 500 pounds per person." Hearing the price, Russell almost died of shock and asked himself, why so costly? What could possibly justify 500 pounds? He expected a bill no more than 30 pounds. Then Russell masked his shock and replied, "I'll handle it. No issue. Don't worry." Though Russell had been frugal, spending money that wasn't his in the first place wasn't a waste in such a situation. After all, the money Russell was spending had originally come from Ryu. Reading his thoughts, a smile appeared on Ryu's lips, and he said, "Russell, don't fret over the bill. In exchange, can you repair my item like before?" Russell said, "The durability? Absolutely. Just hand it over." And he promptly fixed the bead of eternity and returned it. Ryu said, "Thank you, I'll take care of the bill." Russell said, I feel like I haven't done enough for you." Ryu said to him, "No worries. By the way, you mentioned a near-death experience?" He said, "Oh, about that," recounted a rather ordinary tale. He had formed a party as suggested, hunted for 6 hours, and then fought the boss, narrowly escaping demise. And he added, "If I hadn't followed your advice to level up, things could have been dire, right?" Ryu smiled and said, "I'm glad to have been of help. Did you level up much?" He said happily, "I'm now level 29. Hearing that, Ryu said to himself, "Oh, he reached Heavenly Demon's level." In fact, as a blacksmith, Russell wasn't naturally suited for hunting. However, his skill in enhancing and repairing weapons was invaluable to his party members. It's akin to being a buffer. Then suddenly Russell said, "But I must confess, I feel out of place at times. Can I truly claim to be among the top blacksmiths? It's hard to believe," Ryu said with confidence. "With effort, anything is possible. And with my guidance, you can achieve even more." Russell laughed and said, "Your words alone give me strength. With a prophet's support, what's there to fear?" Then he said, "But you must come from an affluent family, Mr. Prophet. You're young, drive a fancy car, and even last time you paid me handsomely." Ryu smiled and said, "Wealthy family?" "No, I was just fortunate. If someone with foresight can't make this much, it'd be a waste, right? But soon, you'll be wealthy too." Russell inquired, "Because of the stocks?" Ryu said, "Yes." "Did you invest in that company I recommended?" He replied immediately, "I opened an account and invested more than half of what you suggested." Ryu said, "Smart move. With that investment, you won't need my financial support in the future." Russell asked again, "But is that company really a sure bet?" Ryu replied with confidence, "Absolutely. That's why I advised you to invest." Russell also inquired about the nature of this company. Ryu was surprised and asked him, "You invested without researching?" He laughed and said, "I trusted your prophecy. I figured it would be safe." As they neared the end of their meal, Ryu suggested, "Shall I take you to the company? It's not far from here." He said, "Sure, let's go." After settling the bill, they headed to Heavenly Demon's office in their car. And when they arrived, Ryu said to Russell, "Here we are." Seeing the signboard of Cheonma Consulting was replaced by Player Place, Ryu said to himself, preparations seem almost complete, and unannounced visits were no issue. After all, as the top executive, Ryu Min virtually owned the company. Then Russell said, this is where I put 70% of my fortune, right? Oh, I mean your money, not mine. Ryu said, that's your money, Russell. Feel free to use it, he said happily and gratefully. Only a prophet could be so kind. You're an angel. Wow. Russell's foreigner-like gestures made Ryu chuckle. Then he said to Russell, isn't that phrase more of a curse than a compliment these days? Russell said, oh, is that how it is? Then Ryu asked, but with only 30% left, can you manage? He replied, it's tight, but I'll manage. Ryu added, I'll withdraw some cash later. 10,000 pounds should tide you over, right? Russell replied quickly. Wow, of course. Ryu smiled and said, aren't you even going to pretend to refuse? Russell, foregoing even a token protest, just laughed. Then he asked, but is it all right to just walk into a company like this? Ryu replied, it's fine. I may not be the CEO, but it's essentially my company. Russell was shocked and inquired, is the company you advised me to invest in? Ryu said, yes. I am the actual owner of this company. And when Russell heard a detailed story from Ryu, he said in amazement, wow, did you really rake in that much from the lottery? Ryu said, yes, I managed to amass quite a fortune, rivaling even Powerball. And since Russell was talkative, he didn't waste this precious opportunity and asked Ryu what came next. How did you employ that wealth? Though it seemed like Ryu was boasting, Russell's persistent questioning left Ryu with no choice but to reveal the whole story, and he went on to explain how he converted his winnings into cryptocurrency, acquiring a 51% stake in the company and seizing control of its operations. The more Russell heard about Ryu's story, the more amazed he became, and he said, oh, so you're essentially the company's major shareholder. Ryu said, yes, indeed. The company still has significant growth potential. We've not only changed the company's name this time, but also completely revamped our business model, gearing up for ambitious endeavors. Then Russell added, it's hard not to believe that a prophet wouldn't make billions in such a short span. I've made a truly wise investment, and, by the way, isn't this also the prophet's money? Ryu chuckled compassionately, observing Russell's embarrassed expression, and he said, don't feel burdened. Feel free to use it. Then he led Russell into his office and said, let me explain the nature of this business once we're inside. Russell said, do we really need an explanation? If the prophet went all in, it's bound to be a colossal success. Ryu said, nevertheless, you've invested a substantial sum, so it's crucial that you understand the nature of the company. Even Russell might have some doubts if he hears about it. It's a business that would pique the interest of anyone involved in gaming. And with a sly smile, Ryu swung open the office door, revealing a group of employees scattered about. And they were all individuals who had previously worked at Cheonma Consulting. Ryu disregarded the inquisitive looks of the employees and led the way to the CEO's office, and said to Russell, follow me. Right in front of the CEO's office, the bodyguard stood like a sentinel. Ryu was perplexed and said to himself, why is he blocking the door like that? Could a client be inside? And just then the bodyguard spoke with a surprised expression. Chairman Ryu, what brings you here? Ryu said, I apologize for the unannounced visit. I wanted to introduce a foreign investor to the company. The bodyguard's gaze flicked towards Russell, suspecting that he might be a player due to his youthful appearance. Then Ryu asked him, is the CEO in? He replied, yes, he is, but there's a client in there at the moment. Ryu inquired. A client? Even though Ryu raised his head as if to inquire further. But the bodyguard remained rooted to the spot without making any move. Ryu said to himself, it seemed that Heavenly Demon had perhaps instructed not to admit anyone. But I, the prophet, giving you this much attention, and you decide to ignore me. It was absurd, but considering the bodyguard's character, it made sense. As if the CEO tells him to die, he'll pretend to die. Or perhaps he will not just act, and he might actually end up dead. Feeling a bit curious, Ryu said to himself, but who came to visit? Then he read the bodyguard's mind. While reading his thoughts, Ryu couldn't help but be surprised. And he said to himself, what? Who is it? Guys, write in the comments who you think this person is. And do not forget to like, subscribe, and support the channel financially, and wait for the next part.